Hey, this is Clark, and today I want to talk about something it's one of our most prized resources. It's not gold, it's not silver, it's not something tangible like that, but it's time. And I have the same amount as you do, with the exception of, some people die younger than others. I get that. But we all have 24 hours in a day, separated just like that. Some of us like to sleep a little more than others. But how did Jesus handle time management? What did he say anything about it? How did he live his life? So I just want to look at this kind of after just scanning through the Gospels, just looking at this and how Jesus handled this. Well, he never really said anything about it, but this is what he did. There's some quick takeaways from Jesus on time management. Number one, he never rushed anywhere. We don't see any instance where Jesus is in a hurry to get somewhere. It's not like the old Alabama song that used to say, "I'm in a hurry to get things done," or "rush and rush," and just don't even know what you're doing. But I don't forgot the words of the song. But anyway, he never rushed anywhere. The only inkling of anything we see where Jesus may have been rushing is where it talks about when he is in front of the disciples, and then along the same lines in another gospel it says he'd set his face to go to Jerusalem. Now, both of those instances are talking about when Jesus is on his way to the crucifixion, which is very telling to think that maybe he was rushing during that instance. But really, there's no indication that that's really a rush, just that he was leading the way, or that he was definitely going to go by setting his face to get there. So he never really rushed anywhere. I mean, literally, you see him taking his time constantly. He died at 33 years old, which is extremely young, I might say, the older I get. So he had around 30 years of just preparation for his life, preparation for his ministry, and then 3 years of ministry. And yet, although only 3 years, literally, basically, in ministry, he is the most well-known person in history. I think that's arguably a fact. I'm sure you could argue that there may be others who are more well-known in history, but it would be hard-pressed to see anyone in the last 2,000 years that has made as much of an impact, that is as well known across the universe as Jesus Christ. Yet only 3 years of ministry, and he never rushed. He wasn't in a hurry to get more and more ministry done, yet we always see him setting the pace, as if even when Lazarus dies and they go to get him, as if, please hurry to come heal him, he waited and waited a couple days. Literally, it was 4 days after Lazarus had died before Jesus went. He never got in a hurry. We do see him praying a lot, even though he has so much on him. He prays a lot. At one point, we even see Jesus taking time to play with children. We see him napping on a boat in a storm. And we also even see him attending a wedding. So Jesus did take time to do these other things, and yet he never got in a hurry. This was Jesus. Number two, he took time for people. And a lot of times these were just one person. For instance, in John chapter 4, when he's talking to the woman at Samaria, it's just her. He takes time for her. And literally, a lot of people are saved or are become believers because of her testimony. He often would take time for just one person. Another instance is when the woman with, as the King James puts it, had the issue of blood for 12 years, and she pulled on the hem of his garment. Literally, he took time to talk to her. And often Jesus takes time for just even one person. But over and over and over again, we see him taking time for people. He invested in the lives of those 12 disciples, obviously more than others. He couldn't help everybody, but he did really invest in some people. And that is so telling. Really, he changed the world. And yes, we understand it's not reproducible. No one else is going to die and raise from the dead. And I understand those facts, but yet it was those few people that he strongly invested in his life in that changed the world. He took time for people over and over and over again. He took time for people, and that's our ministry. It's my ministry. It's yours. It's not as much as I want to take time in studying, as much as I want to take time and doing other things, whether it's fooling around with my truck, which is not ministry at all, but as a hobby, so to speak. as much as I want to do those things, that what our ministry is, what we need to invest in is people. One-on-one ministry, still hard for me, still something I work on, but Jesus took time for people over and over. So time management, some takeaways here from Jesus' life. He never rushed. He took time for people. He accepted the interruptions. Now, I'm a person who likes to plan. I like to have things listed out. And I get a little irritated sometimes when things completely go wrong and I'm not able to get what I wanted done. It's not necessarily a bragging fact, it's just a fact that I work on all the time. But he accepted the interruptions. In other words, for one instance, in Mark chapter 6, when Jesus, you see his ministry going on throughout the chapters, performing miracles. Then John the Baptist dies, who is not only his cousin, but no doubt one of his good friends. Jesus is exhausted. He's emotionally exhausted. He's physically exhausted. He looks at the disciples and says, you guys can get away, go into a desert place alone. And Jesus himself is going to go alone. And it says the people see him crossing the lake and says they go around. And Jesus, after all this exhaustion, is emotionally, physically exhausted. He looks at them and the Bible says he had compassion on them as sheep without a shepherd. And so Jesus took time for them because it was people. It was the main thrust of ministry. And I say these are thoughts of time management, but really it's just what's important. And it's what we need to worry about. And really it comes down to people. And Jesus had this so well. He had compassion on them over and over and over. Also, fourthly, he focused. An example in Mark chapter 1, verse 36, the disciples said, everybody's looking for you. And yet Jesus never says anything to what they're talking about, but literally all he does is it says, we got to go into the next cities and preach the gospel. So through discernment and through understanding he couldn't be everything for everybody, Jesus stayed focused, and that was on the ministry to preach the gospel. And really our ministry is about telling people about Jesus. Yes, I know that is part of loving your neighbors, part of loving the Lord your God with all your heart. But to stay focused is the fact that really nothing else matters. I mean, only what we do for Christ will last, as cliche as that sounds. It's what we have to do. And it's where we should be focused on more instead of hurrying to get as much done as we can. Stay focused. Don't get in a hurry. Don't worry about it. And just take time for people, because I remember one instance where a pastor asked him to pray for him, and he stopped, even though other people were there wanting to talk, even though other things were going on. He stopped and literally prayed for me there. And I realized he did that for other people as well, but it just made an impression on me how he did that and literally took that time, avoiding it, even though it was an interruption, so to speak. He took the time. And think of what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 11, take my yoke upon you, ye who are weary, take my yoke upon you, and you shall find rest for your souls. Are you weary? I know how I feel. I know how exhausted I am over and over, it seems like. I think now as I'm making this video, it's 1st of March, and it's this time of year you're coming through this seasonal affective disorder. I'm just ready for some sun, and so it's part of the exhaustion, but just exhausted. And the only rest that we'll find is Jesus. And I realize that's more involved than just a physical rest, but yet it is physical as well. It's physical, it's spiritual, it's emotional. It's the only thing that matters. It's the only rest we'll find. Everything else, we're just struggling and going on and on. And maybe people will look back and say, man, he did a nice job building that house or something like that. But yet it's not the physical structure I'm worried about. It's the people within it. And that's what we all should worry about. Not necessarily the material things we've accomplished, but the people we've invested in. And I hope we're all doing that. I hope if you're listening that we're doing that. And I want to do that more and more as the days go by. It's something I struggle with, but one-on-one ministry is so extremely important for you and for me. And I need it, and you need it, and we need to be doing it. It's just part of what we're supposed to be doing. Thanks for listening. Until next time.